Okay.
Make sure this is RosePointe.
Well, they said Rose 2555. I made you able to talk. Wait, let me do it
Hi.
again.
Here we go.
Hi,
Talking
Carol.
now. Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
how are you?
I'm good. You have a room full of people here. Everybody say hi.
Hi.
They just keep
Hi,
coming in and
RosePointe.
they just keep coming in and coming in. So I will just go ahead and introduce you and we'll get started. So this is Margaret Barrett right here from Safe Harbor, and Gabrielle, her assistant, who's done all of our tech stuff and made our connections. Margaret started Safe Harbor 8 years ago. She's passionate about educating people on the importance of estate planning and long-term care planning. So she's an attorney, an elder law attorney, but she's also an expert on what she does. And she comes at it because she's been in situations that are similar to many of her clients, and therefore she knows how to give them the help that they need. Safe Harbor is the winner of a law firm 500 award for 3 years in a row. And personally, my husband and I have worked with Margaret at Safe Harbor in our estate planning. She is an absolutely wonderful person. She knows what she does, and we are happy that she can be here to share with us her expertise. This is actually the third time she's been here. The first 2 times we were in person. Does anybody remember, Margaret? Yes, they said yes. So thanks for joining us, and it's all yours. And you will meet.
Thank you so much, Carol. I am so honored by your introduction, and it's fun to try this a different way, and I hope it works well for all you over there. So yeah, we love RosePointe as a partner, and it's been very good. So today our talk is called How to Not Lose All Your Life Savings on the Nursing Home. We're sort of getting a fast advance, but there we are. That's the title. And so I'm really glad you're here today, because this is a good starting point for you to start learning about planning ahead to protect you so you get good care, and your loved ones, and your money. And those things are all really important. And we want you to, what I say is, we hope for the best, but we plan for the worst. That way you have peace of mind, and maybe the worst doesn't come, but you've done what you can to protect yourself. So I'm really glad that each one of you has joined us. Since you're here, I'm thinking, you know, your motivation might have something to do with COVID. There's a lot of it going around. Again, here we are almost 2 years into this, and it's still a good reminder that there's a lot we can't control, and there's things that happen that are unexpected. We don't know when they're going to happen or what, but we do know that unexpected things like illness requiring long-term care, it's pretty likely that most of us will have it at some point. And so when an illness happens, or a medical emergency that is going to be long lasting, it can be overwhelming and scary. And one thing that really helps is planning ahead. And that's why I'm excited you're here. We see the difference in our clients, people who had planned ahead versus people who are coming in crisis. And we are happy to help everybody, but we love to see, especially if we were the ones that were able to make a difference in making a plan that made their lives go smoother when some really hard, overwhelming things are going on. So you can speak this out if you're in RosePointe, so raise your hand maybe. Dawn and can kind of coordinate that. Or in the chat, if you're on webinar, I'll ask a couple questions and you can put them in the chat in the answer. I'm interested to know what you think the cost of, like, monthly cost at a nursing home might be. What would be a good average or high cost? So the biggest financial crisis you can do, 15,000 says someone who's in the industry and knows. Yep. The biggest financial crisis you could face is long-term care costs. So it can easily run over 120,000 a year, which is 10,000 a month. So that's 50% more would be 180, what Michelle's quoting, and that's true. I'm trying to be a little conservative when I say over 120. So you can lose your life savings in the blink of an eye, really, but it doesn't have to be. This is little known, but there are steps you can take to protect your money and to make sure you follow these complicated rules you have to follow to get the government to pay their fair share. Today, I'm going to talk about what we call the smooth sailing system for asset protection. And if you have a smooth sailing asset protection plan, you can avoid being a burden to your kids. You know, I worry about that. You can make sure you get good care, do all you can to get it, still protect some assets and not have a lot of hassle and unnecessary expense, and have more care options. If you plan ahead, you have more care options. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. Of course, we're not going to go through the whole smooth sailing system like we would if we were one-on-one, but we're going to get you started. We're going to offer you free resources. They'll come by email from the webinar, and they will be in paper or email if you're at RosePointe. And we want you to have those so you can keep moving forward. And at the end, we'll offer you one-on-one personal session over Zoom or in person, whatever you prefer, so that you can get your questions answered. You can get more particularly educated. So we really want you to be able to take what you learned here today and take the next step, because learning is great. It's important you're here, but if you don't act on it, you know, that won't help. So we're trying to make it easy for you. Let's jump in. At Safe Harbor, we empower families to protect what is most important to them. And most of our clients tell us what's most important is, like myself and my care, my loved ones, a lot of times that's number one, and my hard-earned money as well. So that's what we're about. This is some of our team. We just hired a couple more people, and so they're not there. But over on the left, the blonde you'll see is Dawn Thompson, and she is at RosePointe, and she is the person that does the one-on-one meeting with you. If you choose that, it's totally optional, complimentary, confidential, but that's who she is. And then Gabrielle is next to her. She's with me. And then there's me. And Nikki Yang is also not in the picture because she just started in December, and she is at RosePointe. So we're the team that really helps clients come in and find out, get educated, and learn if we can help them and how, and help them if they decide to work with us. So that's who's here today. And why is it important? Like, why am I excited and why am I passionate about teaching you? And I'm excited you're here because I don't want what happened to my client Emily to happen to you and your loved ones. So her brother-in-law called me, Bob, a few years ago, and she had two sisters and this one brother-in-law who were so helpful to her and just amazing. She was 67 and she was living independently, like, you know, at RosePointe Independent Living, right? And she fell and broke her hip, and she was in the nursing home. And now she was likely to not return home. She was hoping to, but it was going to be a while. So she was running out of money fast, and they came to us, you know, not planning real far ahead, but planning ahead a little bit. So we were able to, okay, you're almost out of money. We helped them, you know, spend it wisely, protect what they could, and apply. Well, they had sold a house before they ever hired us, and they did not follow the Medicaid rules. They did not get legal advice on how to do it right. The title company gave them bad legal advice because they don't know elder law, of course. And as a result, she got a $90,000 penalty. So the county, the Ramsey County, wouldn't pay a penny until they paid $90,000. Well, she only had $3,000 left. That's the rules. And I remember her brother-in-law calling me and saying, am I supposed to dip into my retirement? I mean, how? Well, it was a heartbreaking situation. We were worried about her getting kicked out of the nursing home. And what happened was we got the legal assistance in the area to do an appeal. I did some work for free, but then there was more to do. So they did the appeal. And thankfully, the work that we had done, you know, we tried to protect them as much as we could after this mistake had been made ahead of time. So we won on appeal. And so they did not have to pay the $90,000. She never got kicked out. The nursing home was wonderful and patient during this like 9 months, but what a stressful year. So I don't want that to happen to you or any of your loved ones. And so that's why I created the smooth sailing system. And that's why we just really keep up to date, and we're really comprehensive in looking at options and providing you options to decide what's right for you to protect. For instance, if you're selling a house, we're going to tell you the rules. Yes, whoever can, everybody mute, please. But I think if you heard a phone, that was my office, by the way. Sorry, I think I'm turning off the phone. So, okay, again, let's move forward, and I'll just tell you a little bit more about me, although Carol made me sound so great. I just really appreciate that, and I'll just try to keep living up to that. But we and the whole team, we are a whole team approach here. There are 2 other lawyers, and Michael and Richard, and we all have training and skills, and we all have some kind of personal experience. Mine is that my dad died of dementia in 2019, 2 years ago today. And my mom is almost 90. And so my siblings and I are supporting them right now. So I get it. And then our team has helped, I'd say about 100 clients last year to protect assets and ensure they get good care and help them get on Medicaid and all that. So we just have lots of experience doing that. And we are all committed to helping you and your loved ones sleep better at night, knowing you did what you could to protect you and your loved ones, regardless of what the future brings. And here's a picture of my mom and dad, because I always like to put it in. And so my mom, I just found out in November, her capacity, we noticed, is starting to wane. And we had a meeting with the neurology people, and they kept mentioning the word dementia. They said, yeah, the older you get, the more likely you get it. And she's on that track. She doesn't have it yet, but so we're gearing up for that. And hoping she can stay in her apartment. That's what she really wants to do. So if you're in that boat, I get it. And our whole team gets it, because we help so many people that we have heard a lot of stories. Here's the example of somebody, we find that clients like to hear from other people. So this daughter was really devoted, helping her mom with dementia, finances, long-term care, and the assets. She realized it was complex and layered with emotions while trying to achieve the very best outcome for your loved one. We find that is really common. And so she appreciated that we treated her with compassion, dignity, and respect. Of course, that is our goal. So, so that can give you an idea of how a client feels when they do a plan and they really appreciate the process. This is just some credentials. Now, I forgot to mention this. If you're in person, you have a handout of these slides and you can make notes on it. Did we email it to the people on the webinar? No. Okay, because you have to print it and everything. So anyway, there's more details on this. We could email it to you if you want. But this law firm's 8 years old. I have some good ratings. I'm involved in the legal community to keep up to date, as are Richard and Michael, the other attorneys, and frequent presenter. So if you have an idea of who else might want to be educated at no charge, I'd be happy to talk to them. Please let us know. And Gabrielle will send you a recording. Yes, thank you. So let's just dive into the objectives today. First, I'm going to talk to you about how to pay for long-term care. And I do have some kind of up-to-the-minute updates up to the last few months. And then we'll answer questions. So please save your questions. If you're on the web and you want to put them in the chat, that's fine. We'll look at them later. But save them, jot them down, because we find it's more efficient for everyone if we do that. And then we'll give you the opportunity for the one-on-one questions later also. And then we'll talk about that strategy session. And so you know how to do that if you want to take advantage of it. So ways to pay for care. Again, we talked about, Michelle said $15,000 for care. Did anyone else guess about that in the chat? Did
Kathy
you know?
said 10,000, which is right on.
Becky said 10, which is a number that I,
Yeah.
Kathy, which I throw out a lot also, but we have had clients get up to 15,000. It's not as common, but it will get common as cost goes up. So the problem is the cost of care. So in a nursing home, it can be around $5,000 to $6,000 to $15,000 a month. For assisted living, $4,000 to $8,000 is more the ballpark. At home, this surprises people. You can spend more at home than in a nursing home. It depends on the care you need, but you can spend up to $200,000 a year at home. And today we're covering all of that. I say nursing home, but you could be getting care at home. So all of that, you can easily, one person can go through $1 million actually pretty quickly. People with dementia need care an average of 10 years, which is kind of shocking. The average stay in a nursing home is 2.5 years. Generally, women longer than men. But anyway, you can see that this is something most people really needs to plan ahead for. And how can you pay? First option, private pay. This is your own money. And so the pros is you have more options and you don't have to follow any Medicaid rules. The cons is it's expensive, like we just talked about. And you might not have enough to pay for all of it. You can't pass any on to your loved ones and you don't have any flexibility. So, so that's the first option. And then the next option is long-term care insurance. So you can please put in the chat or raise your hand at RosePointe. I can't see you, but Dawn and Nikki can see you. If you have long-term care insurance. So, and I want to say, you know, that's great if you have it, but even if you have it, I still think you need to be here and you need to plan ahead, because long-term care insurance, it has its limits. And sometimes people have problems getting them to pay what they're supposed to pay under the contract, or there's disputes about the contract. But even if they pay well, there are limits to how much they pay and for how long. And so it's still a good idea for most people to be planning ahead for how to pay for long-term care, even if you have the insurance. Okay, thank you for your responses. The third thing is, let's say well, I'm out of money, or I planned ahead and protected some of my money in my long-term care insurance. I don't have it, or I used it up. Then the government pays, right? And so Medicare is what most people think Medicare is going to pay for long-term care, but it doesn't. It only pays a short period of time. It's the first 20 days, and then there's a copay for the first 100 days. So it's really nothing. And then if it's long-term, you're going to go on what's called Medicaid. That's the national name for it. In Minnesota, we call it medical assistance. In Wisconsin, it's called Badger Care, and I don't know the Florida name. And then that's a coordination between the state and the federal government. It's administered by the states. In Minnesota, it's administered by the counties. And then there's veterans. If any of you are veterans, please raise your hand or put in the chat. And I first want to say thank you for serving. We appreciate your service. There are certain rules that you have to meet. If you meet them, you can get long-term care from the VA. The problem we see with our clients is there's usually a long waiting list, 1 to 2 years for the nursing home for the VA. So we end up having a lot of clients who go on medical assistance anyway, but that is another option. The primary payer of long-term care in the country from the government is Medicaid. And that's going to be the focus of the rest of our talk. So we want to plan to follow the rules they have and to get on Medicaid and to use the rules for your benefit. So I want to tell you a little bit about my friend Aaron Miller. He's an attorney in Texas, and his Grandpa Miller. Grandpa Miller, they lived in Colorado. He and his wife had a farm, and Grandma Miller started to lose capacity. So one day, Grandpa found her shoes in the freezer. That was not a good sign. Another day, they searched high and low for the keys. They were behind an outlet. I don't know how he found that. Maybe it was a jar. I don't know. So obviously some things needed to change. And eventually Grandma had to go in the nursing home. Well, Grandpa, he didn't know about he hadn't been to any talk like this. He didn't know about it. He didn't even know about Medicaid. So he just paid all this money for Grandma's care, and she lived a while, and then she passed away. And finally he started to get ill. And so he sold the farm and moved to Texas by his son. And then he got ill and he was out of money. So his son took money out of his own retirement account and paid for Dad's care, a lot of money. They didn't know about Medicaid. They didn't know that not only would the government pay you when you run out of money, but you can protect money before you run out. And so again, I'm glad you're here. Kudos to you. And we want to learn about these programs, because in Minnesota, there's a 5-year look back for Medicaid, and you got to follow the rules 5 years before. Okay, so that is the primary, and I want to clarify that I'm talking about people over 65. There's other programs we do help people with for under 65. We're talking about over 65 long-term care. There's two. There's either what's called long-term care, that's traditional Medicaid, and you're in a nursing home, okay? The second type is called elderly waiver, or EW. So EW, you're living in assisted living or maybe independent living, or you're living in a in your own home. And if you're living in a senior facility, they don't all take EW, or they have a limit on how much they can take. That's typical because, they don't get as much money and they need to make a living. So elderly waiver is outside the nursing home, and you have to be careful to make sure the place you're living will take it if you want to go on an elderly waiver. And long-term care is in the nursing home. There are differences in the rules, but for our purposes today, they're really similar. So we're just going to lump them together under Medicaid or medical assistance. Okay, so if you are, let's see, medical assistance, yep. So I said there's a 5-year look back. Okay, you have to follow the rules in the last 5 years. If you don't follow the rules, they'll assess a penalty. And people a lot of times hire us when they get this penalty letter because it's like a really bad feeling. And but if you plan ahead, we can avoid the penalties, or even better, sometimes we plan for penalties and we prepare ahead of time to meet them. So it can actually be okay if we plan ahead. So so it's nice if you can plan more than 5 years ahead, because you don't have to follow the rules. But if you're in the 5-year period, then we can help you. And really, always the sooner is better, because we'll have more options. You'll have more money to protect. Many people, we can protect half their assets or more, sometimes 75 to 80%. That depends on the situation. So medical assistance, here's some of the basics. The rules are complicated. And there's some gray areas that aren't in the rules. It's like interpretation of the rules. And so they're inconsistently applied by the counties. Different workers in the county do it differently. The counties will apply them differently at different times. Department of Human Services will have a new interpretation. That happened to us late last year. And sometimes they're not following the rules, and we can point out to them, this isn't right, and then they'll follow the rule usually. Sometimes it's an interpretation that just changes and we can't do anything about it. So it's inconsistent. There is some inconsistency. The rules are not intuitive. This is not I find most of our clients, a lot of them are the greatest generation, worked hard, handled your money very well, have great values. And all of a sudden you run into Medicaid and it's like, what? I'm penalized for giving gifts to my children and grandchildren? Well, that's a good thing to do, isn't it? It's my money. So it's not intuitive. It's good to learn about it or find someone who knows about it. And lastly, asset protection strategies, we call it. It's basically planning ahead and taking action to make sure you qualify and protect money are really effective. And in the last few years, we have some new tools in Minnesota that are really making a big difference. So the time to plan is now, and I do recommend getting help. I have a couple of short videos if you follow us on Facebook, or we can send them to you. Maybe we'll send after some of them about don't get your legal advice about Medicaid from the nursing home or the county, because we've had some people really get burned on that lately, and it just makes us sad. So yes, the time to plan is now. And this is another client who just said that we went above and beyond during a difficult time and accomplished things that I worried about when I was losing hope. But we understand. We want to give you all the hope you can, and we'll be honest about what's realistic and what isn't. And so they appreciate us and recommend us, which we really appreciate. We get a lot of referrals from satisfied clients like Carol. So here's another story. This gentleman had a stroke, and he was about 59, and this is probably 6 years ago. And so all of a sudden he went from being this strapping, strong, capable guy to this guy with a stroke. And he still actually had his mental capacity, but he couldn't really talk very well and things. And so he had a wonderful son, St. Paul firefighter, and a wonderful sister. And I worked with them, and I remember him coming to the office in the wheelchair. And so he was going to have long-term care the rest of his life. And he actually had a wife in Canada, but they had been separated for many years and they never bothered getting divorced. So we had to help him get the divorce first, because otherwise she was going to have to pay for his care. And then he had some money left. And I'll never forget this son, this St. Paul firefighter, big, strong, just crying in my office because he saw that his dad he knew his dad before, and now he saw the difference, and it was just really heartbreaking. But he had this wonderful, loyal son. And so he was able to protect $250,000, about half his money. He gave it to his son, and we did a Medicaid compliant annuity. And so there was a penalty, and the annuity paid for it. I know you're not going to follow all that probably, but we just had a plan, and they're very happy. This was, like I said, probably 5 years ago. It's the first annuity I did, Medicaid compliant annuity. And they're very happy that they have this extra money to help him out while he's alive. And it probably a good share will pass to his son when he's gone. So that is another example. And here's another way of giving an example. This is a pie chart, if you're into this. So let's say this client has $600,000, single person, and they come to us. Or let's say they don't come to us, first of all, okay, or they come to us, but they decide not to work with us. So basically they have 600,000. It's almost all, except $3,000, gonna go to the care provider, be it the nursing home or in-home care, whatever. It's all gonna go to them. And then the state doesn't pay a dime until the person pays 600,000. And that's how it works. And if they don't work with an elder law attorney, they might not even qualify for medical assistance once they get down to the $3,000. So that's a risk. So let's go to the next page. This would be just a sample of a client. Everything depends on your situation, but this is typical. This client did work with us, to do a asset protection plan, we call it. And so this person, and this was similar to the gentleman that I was just pictured. I mean, it wasn't him, but it's a model that looked like him. So this gave $250,000 to the son or trusted family members, bought the Medicaid compliant annuity, in this case for $290. These numbers are going to vary, and it's a complicated calculation that depends on your cost of care. And then there's a few other little strategies they did, like they prepaid the funeral. Because for a single person to get on Medicaid, you have $3,000, or if you're married, it's about $130,000. Beyond that, you can prepay funerals. You can have a car if you meet certain criteria. You can have a house if you meet certain criteria. So this person prepaid a funeral. We always recommend that. Maybe they pay the family member for some work they're doing in care, and the family member kept the money, or the family member saved it for the senior person. It all depends. So there are some different strategies that vary depending on the people, but these Medicaid compliant annuities that were new about 8 years ago in the 8th Circuit case that came out that made them allowable in Minnesota. These are game changers, because you can see before the Medicaid compliant annuities, over $500,000 would have still been spent on care. So these are great. And that is the big game changer that not all elder law attorneys use. So I just want you to know that this is a big game changer. It's different than what was done in the past. We now have quite a bit of experience with these, are real comfortable with them. And there are a few other elder law attorneys in town who are, and some who don't do them. So that is the big game changer. Now here's an example of Pauline. She's 82, has dementia. Her nursing home care is $8,300 a month. She wants to help her grandchildren. And so she went to an elder law attorney for help. And so what we want to do with somebody who already needs care, like Pauline is, instead of paying that money to the nursing home until you run out in 2 years, whatever it is, we can make you eligible maybe next month. So they want to obtain Medicaid eligibility as quickly as possible and preserve our assets and create wealth transfer to the next generation. So we create a spend down amount, and we implement the annuity plan and apply for Medicaid. So basically, like that pie chart we develop a plan, we work with the family to develop the plan that fits, and then we make the gift, we buy the annuity, and we apply for Medicaid. And a lot of times we do that in usually the next month after someone hires us. A lot of people, it's a more drawn out process, and we customize it to whatever's right for you. So after her spend down or asset reduction, she's eligible for Medicaid. We make sure of that. Her copay will just be $17.50 a month that she pays out of her income. to the nursing home. And she gifted her children 75,000, and that was over half her savings. So she was able to spend approximately 75,000 then for an annuity. And if she didn't proceed with the plan, she would have spent everything in 16 months. Okay, so this, I know I'm giving you a lot of information. I'm trying to not talk fast. It's harder when I can't see people's faces, I think. So this is some takeaways I want you to remember. The Medicaid compliant annuities are a game changer, huge. You can save over half your assets with a proper plan and still get good care. The sooner you plan, the better. That's true. Almost everybody save more than you spend on this type of planning. Usually way more than you spend. And we have that complimentary strategy session with Dawn that can better explain this. And especially customizing to your situation, which I think is better than the general examples. And then another option, newsflash, this is true. This is Michael Teeter. He is an attorney here on staff, and really, honestly, a brilliant person who is passionate about this. He does most of our Medicaid and asset protection work. And so in Minnesota, until July, people were not allowed to put money in an irrevocable trust, even more than 5 years ago, and still go on Medicaid. Medicaid in Minnesota would say, nope, it's called irrevocable, and everybody else treats it as irrevocable, but we call it revocable, and you have to take money out of there and pay for your care before we pay a dime. They would penalize irrevocable trusts. I've known Michael for a few years, and we've always thought that was unconstitutional. And there was one case in Minnesota that we already won on. And so it went up to the Court of Appeals in July. Michael got to write the section of the brief on the constitutionality of it. And the Court of Appeals agreed and said irrevocable trusts are allowed in Minnesota, just like all the other states, as a way to protect assets from Medicaid. And so a lot of times we can use these with an annuity. And so this is another great tool in our toolbox. And Michael, especially at other firm he was at before, had quite a bit of experience with irrevocable trusts. So he is really one of the few attorneys in the state that has a lot of experience with these for Medicaid purposes. He used to represent a lot of farmers that did them. So even though they weren't allowed, we could still do them, but we plan to fight it in court. We don't have to fight it in court anymore. So that's another news update. So we do keep up to date on all of this information for you so that you can know all your options. And by the way, when this is important, because if you want to do a Medicaid compliant annuity or your irrevocable trust or something, there actually is language we want to put into your power of attorney and your will or trust. So it can affect your estate plan documents. So I say if you're over 50, it'd be really good to go to an estate planner who does elder law. So because we will talk to you about this sophisticated stuff in your estate planning session. Also in your will or trust, if you're married, you can disinherit about half your money from your spouse to your kids. And we have some spouses do that. So they already protected half their money, and then later maybe do an annuity, protect another half, and easily protect 75, 80%. So the two are tied together, but we got you on that. We will watch out for that for you. Estate recovery, please put in the chat if you've heard about estate recovery, or raise your hand at RosePointe. This is after your loved one dies, they're on Medicaid, within a couple weeks or something, usually a couple weeks, you get a letter from the county that says, we're sorry that you lost your loved one. Please do not dispose of any money because we have a lien and we want to recover it. And please complete this form and send it to us within 30 days, which is ridiculous. Okay, no one has an estate that figured out in 30 days. And so yes, if you have a house, they put a lien on it. If you don't have a house, they still want to collect out of your $3,000 measly what's left, what they can. So we help people with estate recovery, and often we can actually save good amounts of money on that. So just keep in mind, sort of no such thing as a free lunch. And we plan for this as well. So we'd be happy to help you with that. I think those are most of the questions that come up that people come to us with. I just want to say that I don't see this as a do-it-yourself project. We really see people do better if they plan ahead and they work with an elder law attorney than doing it on your own. And we feel like it's even increasing. The complications with the counties are sort of worse. And then now that we have these great Medicaid compliant annuities, they're complex. This is not the kind of annuity you just go buy from your financial advisor. You need to work with an elder law attorney because you can kind of see that if it's not done right, it can blow up, and that would be bad. So I just would recommend, once in a while we hear about people, I applied and it went fine, and sometimes it does, but then of course I guess we hear about the problems. And so I would recommend that it's better to take, if you have almost all your money but $3,000, it's going to go to the nursing home, then you go on Medicaid. If you just carve out some of that to hire an elder law attorney, it's money that's going to go anyway. It's going to be spent anyway. It's going to help you and your loved ones. So I think it's a really good use of that I know are already spending a lot on care. So this is a little kind of checkmark questionnaire because in addition to our handouts and our free resources that we're sending you, we are offering you the option of this strategy session because we appreciate you taking the time, and we hear from people, it's easy to forget about this and, move on and kind of remember, like there's something important there, but I don't remember. So people have told us that if they want to learn more and they come and talk to us soon after the meeting, it's much more helpful and they get more out of the strategy session. So this is a little questionnaire to say, well, would it be worth your time, to do one of these? And so the first is, if you're worried about running out of money for your care or loved one's care in the next 10 years, I would check that box. That would be a sign like probably worth your time. I have made gifts in the past. If you already have made gifts, we actually can fix them with Medicaid compliant annuities or figure out other things. Better to plan ahead of time to fix the gifts. I don't know if my estate plan allows for Medicaid asset protection strategies. It probably doesn't. But we can help you with that. And I want to learn more about Medicaid and protecting my assets. Those are kind of the categories we see people feeling. So if you feel like some of these are issues for you that you want to move forward, then it would make sense to take another step. Wish I could keep up on the chat, but I can't. Okay, great. We're to the questions. So should I go through in order, or I know I see I have a lot.
Start with Ron, Phil. Okay.
Carol, we probably won't have time for all the questions, but I want to give RosePointe a chance to, Carol, let us know. I don't know, I might have to go backward. Where are they?
Anybody here have a question directly to Margaret? Otherwise, we can direct them.
Okay, Ron, how does the 5-year look back work? Spend down and gifts? Well, I don't know if you felt like I answered it, Ron, but in the 5 years, you have to follow the Medicaid rules. And so some of the main rules we see that people have problems with are, did you make any gifts in the last 60 months? It's going to be on the application. You need to say that. This includes charity, giving to church, Christmas gifts. It needs to be disclosed. And then then they want to know, there's specific questions about, like, if you sold real estate, that's the second thing. Gifts and real estate are the big ones that we see people have problems with, but they also run an AVS report now. This is a couple years old. So if you don't disclose it, they're going to find it. They get data on your finances. So you need to disclose everything that's liquidated. So they'll, like, if you sold a house, they'll want to know that you sold it properly according to the rules and where the money went. They want to follow the paper trail. Gifts, the bright line rule in writing is no gifts. The counties, from everything I've heard in our personal experience, regular gifts that are small or irregular, even smaller gifts, they overlook, like $50 to your kids and grandkids for Christmas and New Year's, $25 a week to church or that kind of thing. It's not explicitly allowed, but they do allow it. They in practice. I hope that answered your question, Ron. It's hard to do this chat. Let me see. It keeps scrolling all the way to the top.
What's
You have
your
a question,
question,
Carol?
Dorothy? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I have a quick question. Suppose you use up your savings and care, do they take your life insurance also away from you then for us, for burial?
Could you hear that, Margaret?
No, I need you to repeat it, Carol.
Okay, if you've used up your savings, can they also take then from your life insurance?
If there's cash value to it, yes. So the question was, can they take your life insurance? And so people will say this a lot, like, yes, they can, but they'll say like, will they take my house? Will they take my life insurance? They actually don't take anything from you. They just won't pay till you spend it on your care. So if there's a cash value to your policy, yes, it counts as an asset. Retirement counts. There's some exception in Wisconsin to retirement. We recently advised a client, he was open to it, move to Wisconsin and protect like $1 million he had in his retirement account. But pretty much everything counts except what I'm telling you. I'm going to go to Wade's question. I think I had 2 on estate recovery here. Let's see, but Wade, how does it work when the survivor is not a spouse but owns 50% of the house? That's a complicated one. Depends. Yeah. Usually, well, even if there is a spouse, it's going to, yeah, I'm trying to think of how to give you a quick answer on that. I can't give you a quick answer on that. I don't want to say the wrong thing. So same with the look back. Do they penalize the entire value of the home or just the half? This is a really, you're right, Wade, it's too specific. There have been counties in the metro area that have penalized more than half of the home, even though the recipient owned half. It seems completely wrong. It hasn't happened to my clients, but I've heard that it can happen. Kay, you live in independent living, thinking of moving in a year or 2 to independent living with services. Some of these say they honor Medicare. I don't know, ask them what it means, Kay. I mean, Medicare is, more like health insurance. So I think that's what they're talking about. It's not going to cover long-term care for more than 100 days. I'm sorry you lost your husband in August. Oh, that's great. We worked with you. I don't see your last name, but okay. Yes. So when one spouse passes away, it's really good to do an update. If you're our client, you work with us, call, set up a time with the attorney you work with, and we'll talk you through and see what needs to be updated, if anything. But there's more leeway you have when the first spouse dies, but when the second one comes, you really want to make sure everything's right. Ann Matthews, I mean, how do we protect our home? You mean, if you mean from the lien, you can't really avoid a lien, but you can keep your home if one of you is living in it. That's the simplest answer I can give you, and the one that most people fit into. But you could also, it could get more complicated. Phil and Mary, do all nursing homes accept Medicaid? Nursing homes have to accept long-term care, Medicaid. The other facilities that are not that skilled nursing facility level, the lower level of care, they are not required to accept it. That's EW. So you always have to ask if the facility accepts EW before you move in if you think you might need it. What if we don't have children we want to leave our money to? Yes, what I described, that Medicaid compliant annuity, it really only works if you have people that you trust to kind of manage the money or gift it to. But an irrevocable trust, you can use it if you have kids, but I think it's more important if you don't have kids. So we can work with you on that. We represent, yes, we help people in Wisconsin. The rules are kind of similar. I already mentioned, Michelle, about the retirement account being different. Richard Baum is the attorney in our office who is licensed in Wisconsin and knows those rules inside, outside, upside down. And I don't remember more details, but if you signed up for the strategy session with Dawn, she could probably get a few basics for that meeting too. I mean, she might already know them, but we could prep for that way. But it's not vastly different. Oh, thanks, Wade. Is that it? Is that the last question?
In the chat, yeah.
Okay, is there another question at RosePointe?
Yeah, hold on.
How do existing trusts affect planning? Everything we own, even $5.
My least favorite thing is not being able to see you guys.
Bill asked how existing trusts fall into this scenario of planning,
For
or
example, we don't own anything. Our trust.
Yeah.
all of their assets are in a trust. So can you,
Yes, good question. Is it a living trust or revocable trust, I think?
Not revocable. It's revocable, yes.
it's a revocable trust.
Okay. It's wonderful to have a revocable trust. Most of our clients choose those. It's a great tool while you're still alive and after you pass away. It really does nothing to protect money from Medicaid. However, if you have a trust, it's great because we can build in some really nice terms that allow you to do these Medicaid compliant annuities and, you know, irrevocable trust if you want. So they really work well. So it's great that you have it. I would want to see the language in there to see if it allows for gifting and if that really makes sense for you. You know, that would be part of asset protection planning, but yeah, it doesn't really provide specific protection for that money, but good for you that your assets are in a trust. That will help you avoid probate.
Anything else from RosePointe? Can we say thank you and we will,
Wait, Carol, I'm not done, sorry.
oh, okay.
I was just thinking I should say there's more because people always end with the questions, but we don't end with the questions.
Oh.
Okay, sorry, just a little bit more because I want to follow up and make sure you guys get the resources you want. So again, how do you move from being stressed out and maybe still overwhelmed, maybe more overwhelmed than you were at the beginning of this talk, I don't know, to having your ducks in a row and feeling, you know, pretty good about things. Okay, so we are sending the handouts by email. One is called Red Flags for Elder Law Help. It kind of gives you an alert of when I might need an elder law lawyer, because we know most people aren't really familiar with us. And for professionals, that's a nice thing to have too, Michelle, to keep an eye out and to share with staff of when we can help. And what's the other one called? I forgot.
How to avoid, how to stay out of the nursing.
Oh yeah, I like this. I wrote this last year, I think. It's how to get good care and stay out of the nursing home. So a lot of you, especially at RosePointe, you know, may want to do that. I know that's my mom's goal. So there's some different programs. I didn't talk about all of them and kind of different things you can do to avoid the nursing home. And, you know, we hope, I mean, we don't know for sure, but both of those, I think people find helpful. So we are providing those to you. Thank you for being here. We hope they're helpful. Pass them on to somebody if you think that they could use them. So then the last thing is that one-on-one. And we'd be happy to do it. It's complimentary and it's confidential because we do need some personal information from you to help you. And so you can go to safeharborstatelaw.com/schedule. And if you're on the webinar, and also Gabrielle can put this link in the chat, so you could just click on it. But if you could Google Safe Harbor State Law, and then you can click in there to schedule. And so it's called Asset Protection Strategy Session. Now, if you're at RosePointe, Nikki and Dawn are there, and they have clipboards with times we set aside, both for people online and in the seminar. So we wanted to give you guys time so you could come in, you know, while this is fresh in your mind. So we have some specific times. And so I recommend signing up especially because we have some people in person and some online, but it should work out. Hopefully there won't be any duplicates. And
I'll help if they are.
Gabrielle will help. And so, so in person, talk to them and fill out. You also have a sheet that you can check off if you want to have a meeting and give it to them and you can sign up today. That's what I would recommend if you want. Completely optional, no pressure. Our goal is to educate you on your options so that you can make the decision and you're empowered to decide what's best for you. And so, again, if you're worried about running out of money for you or a loved one in the next 10 years because of long-term care, or if you're worried about gifts you made or some other sold a house, you're worried you haven't followed the rules because you didn't know them. Or if you're not sure if your estate plan paperwork is up to date, your will, trust, or power of attorney, especially to allow for these gifts. And then if you just want to learn more, okay, then it may make sense for you because we want to use your time well and ours. And so again, yeah, I guess it's usually 45 minutes on our office over Zoom. There's Dawn again. She listens to your concerns, ask good questions. She'll be honest. If you have $10 million, we're probably going to tell you you're probably good. Okay, but whatever. We'll be honest about you and tell you if we can help and how and the cost and the process, the timing, all that, so that you can decide. And then the attorneys, you most likely work with Michael because he does the most of this. We're getting bigger now and we specialize more, but we all can do all the work. Or Richard, and Richard handles Wisconsin for sure, or me. And then she'll pair you up with the best match, and depending on our availability too and your need. Okay, there's that slide again. We don't need that again. Okay, so you're gonna get those. There's the 2 reports I told you about. I hope they're helpful. Call us if you have questions on those. Spread the word because we can only help the people who know what we're about. And okay, all right. I'm sorry that you're feeling overwhelmed, Kathy, and that is a very normal response. And so yeah, take a little time to process it, but I think that's why we find people like that one-on-one to kind of personalize it directly to you, and then you don't have to hear a bunch of stuff that doesn't apply to you. There's beautiful pictures of RosePointe. It's a wonderful place. They redecorated a couple years ago. It's a great location. Love working with you guys. I think I'm finally done, Carol.
Did you notice that Margaret's office has our beautiful RosePointe blue colors?
Yeah, we all think alike, I guess. Our whole office is blue. The designer, I asked her to make it calming because people are in stressful situations when they come in.
Well, as you can see from our pictures, we match your office, so with a beautiful blue. Well, we will leave you now. Thank you so much, Margaret. Have a great day, and I'm glad you had such a great response online and in person, and we'll hang out here for a while. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We'd love to hear from you guys if you have questions.